Hi again. I decided to put together some tips on how to dress for the Zoom interview just for the men. I put my poor husband as the guinea pig to the test. I think he must be a little bit bored during quarantine because he was really, really cooperative. I even had him put on a suit and a tie so we could test how everything looked on Zoom and whether or not it was any different. So remember how we said you should test how everything's going to be. So you should choose whatever your background is, whatever your setup's going to be. You actually should test how you're dressed. So what I recommend for a Zoom interview, just like for any other interview, is if you're a law firm partner who is male, you're expected to be wearing a suit and a tie. Unless there's some reason you think that's not necessary, I would 100% stand behind that. And I would tell you that for the purpose of mindset, it's really important to wear the whole suit. Not, I know everybody's talking about, oh, I have my jacket and tie and my boxers on. I'm not sure that's a great idea. First of all, you might have to jump up in the middle of the interview if something happens behind you, and you would be very embarrassed. But also, it's a mindset thing to be completely dressed, shoes and all, to make sure you feel just the way you would if you were walking into somebody's office, shaking hands and sitting down in their desk chair, having an interview, or walking into that conference room, whatever it is. So my husband was kind enough to test out a bunch of these tips for me, and I'm going to share with you what we decided would be best for over Zoom. So he shaves his head. He said that if he were going to have a Zoom interview, he would recommend a fresh shave, to the extent that you don't shave your head and your hair is getting a little unruly during the quarantine. My son has very quick growing hair that was really out of control, and we tested out using much more products than he would ordinarily use. It looked a little too stiff for real life, but it actually looked much better on camera than it did in real life. So it's only got to be okay for 45 minutes of talking to somebody over the Zoom conference. So think about it that way. And I know a lot of you have grown quarantine beards. That's fine. Whatever facial hair you want is fine. But you should think about whether you can make it look a little neater, whether it's possible to do a beard trim or even use a little product to keep it from looking a little bushy. As far as what you should wear goes, your suit and your tie, we tested a white shirt, which looked fine on camera. My husband thought also a blue shirt would have looked fine. He had a dark blue suit. Yours might be dark gray or black or whatever. But what we did notice was he initially put on a light blue tie, which in person looked really nice. On camera, it didn't. It wasn't enough of a contrast with his white shirt. So we did find that it was much better with like a bright red or a bright green or a burgundy tie, some brighter, deeper color. And I would stay away from any prints that are a little bit too busy. I think that you might be better off with a plain white shirt or a plain blue shirt, a plain dark suit, and then a bright colored tie of some kind. And he said he would recommend going with something that is the most form-fitting that you have, the tightest thing you have. So even that collar that might feel a little bit too much on your neck would look much better on camera. You don't want any gap between the collar of your shirt and your neck. You don't want any gap between the tie and the collar. So you want to pull your tie as tightly as you can, and you want a shirt that's as form-fitting as you can get it. So to the extent that normally you would wear a shirt, that looks fine, you have to check when you're testing your setup if the fabric looks very billowy, because it can tend to look wrinkled or sloppy. So my husband pulled down his shirt and his jacket very tightly, and he recommended wearing the jacket buttons, even though normally you probably would unbutton it when you sat down. It did make the collar and the tie look a little bit neater to have the jacket buttons. So hopefully that helps you a little. And as I said, you want to test it on camera. So see how it feels, how it looks, make sure it's okay. And I really recommend wearing your pants. Thanks very much. We'll come back with some more tips on a bunch of the other parts of having your Zoom interview.